In this video, I'm going to tell you how I took this shot, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and more. I've been shooting F1 for 5 years now, although effectively I had all of 2020 off because of COVID. However, in that time I've taken some pictures that I've really loved, and I want to tell you today how I've taken some of those photos, and I'm going to start at Spa. This is Eau Rouge, a frightening place to stand. And what do we have? A fence that's about 1 metre high with a couple of gaps in the middle, and the cars come screaming past at probably around 300 kilometres an hour. Thing is, they make a hell of a noise, but it's not the engine, it's actually the tyres on the curbing. So how do I get this shot? Well, got to get a bit dirty, and on this particular day it was wet, so I'm kneeling on the grass, stroke mud, looking through this gap in the fence. For this shot I used a 16 to 35 millimeter lens, but the lens is too wide. As you can see, I get a bit of black top and bottom of the Armco. I probably should have used a 50 millimeter. It's smaller in diameter, and it also allows me to zoom in a little bit. I do these shots mainly in practice. To do them in the race is almost too terrifying because there's car after car after car in quick succession. But is that the only shot I love at Spa? No, there's another one. It's up at Les Combes. Once again, I'm shooting low through the Armco because I don't want you to see the track in the foreground. You can see a little bit of it, but when I come up higher, as you can see here, there's a marked difference. Shooting low provides a bit more colour in the sky, so it's better if the sky is rich blue. If it's a dull grey day, it's not quite as good a shot. I shot with a 70 to 200 millimeter lens, but then I only had the lens set at 130 odd millimeters, and I probably should have used this prime lens. Now, for you photographers, you know you get a better looking shot with a prime lens, and once again, it too has a smaller lens than the 70 to 200, which means it fits a little bit better in the gap of that Armco. This shot of Daniel Ricciardo coming onto the grid in 2019 is one of my absolute favourites. And you know, I doubt that I will ever get the chance to take this shot again. I'll tell you why. For a start, it was raining. That's rare. The cars were coming onto the grid. I can stand up the back of the grid, and as long as there are no people in front of me standing on the side of the track, to you, the viewer, it looks like I'm actually standing on the track during the race. Now, because it's raining, you see a little bit of moisture being flicked up off the track by Daniel's tyres. And the added elements here are Max Verstappen in the background and a crowd in a grandstand. Now, there aren't too many tracks that we're as close to the cars when they come onto the grid that you can fill the background with crowd. I think I just got very lucky that day. Let's go to Imola. Now, this is the chicane. Now, I could, if I wanted, stand where I'm taking this shot from so that you can see everything. But you get a lot of Rolex signage, not that great, because in photography, we want to get rid of all the distracting bits. Ideally, we want an image that's as clean as possible. So by coming down, standing ground level, the curbing throws their front wheel up in the air. The shots you're looking at here are shot with this lens. This is a 600 millimeter lens. It's big, but it allows me to get nice and tight in on the cars. You can even see the driver's gloves, and in the right light, you can actually see into their helmet. Let's go to Austria now. It's one of the shortest tracks on the calendar, and the second last corner sees the cars make a right-hander. You get the red and white of the foreground runoff, plus in the background there's red and white, and the car is pretty much floating in this sea of red and white. Now, if I go 10 metres, I get a slightly different shot. You can see the green curbing of the track. Once again, if I move back here, say 10 metres or so, that completely disappears. Once again, I'm shooting with this 600mm lens, and even then, it's not quite tight enough. I still have to crop in a little bit. Here's another shot I love at the Red Bull Ring. It's just after turn 4, and the cars come down the hill. And if we sit on the inside of the track and shoot up, you get beautiful forest in the background, and you can't see any fencing if you get low enough. Panning with the car is important, so I get a little bit of movement on the tyres, so you can see that. I'm probably shooting at a 250th of a second here. Oh, I've got to be careful too, because on the wider shot here, you can see there are a couple of things in the background that'll ruin this shot. So that's always a challenge, to get a shot that doesn't include those distractions in the background. Oh, and there's one other shot at the Red Bull Ring that I like, and that's standing on the inside of the last corner, and there's well, it's a small forest, I guess, and shooting through the trees, if you pan at exactly the same speed as the car is going, you get to see the car sharp and all the stuff in the foreground and background blurred because you're moving the camera. Oh, and by the way, yes, you can buy these hoodies with the Stay Passionate logo on at my shop, kimillman.com. They'll be sent almost anywhere in the world. This is Bahrain, or Bahrain as we say it. The thing is, you can only get this shot during F1 testing. You can't get it during a race. I'll tell you why. Because I shoot through the Armco to get low enough to get those palm trees prominent in the background in the shot, you have to shoot through the Armco. Come race time, there's signage on that Armco. You can't shoot through the hole. But during testing, they take all that signage away, and it's an opportunity. Now, I've used a 70 to 200mm lens here, and I've shot at 88mm, and I've still had to crop in a little bit, as you can see here. Next time I do this, I'm going to use a 135mm fixed lens. It's got a smaller lens at the front, but a fixed lens will always give you a sharper looking image. See that shot up the back there on the wall? And if you can, that's Daniel coming out of the Monaco tunnel. It's one of my favourite spots to shoot. I know that shot so well. How do I get it? Well, once again, shooting low through the second gap in the Armco. Ideally, I'd like to shoot through the bottom gap, but it's just too uncomfortable. However, with the new R3 from Canon, it's got a tilt-out screen, so you can actually look down and you don't have to put your eye in the eyepiece. So that may be an advantage for me. But anyway, it's still a pretty good photo as it is. The secret is getting the cars as they come out of the darkness into the light. But I've got to tell you, it's very uncomfortable. Those cars often come very close to me. They kick up a bit of dust from time to time. You're lying on concrete, often it's hot, but the end result is a shot that is so lovely. And you can buy any of my images on canvas by heading to kimillman.com, going to my shop and then clicking on the canvas prints option. And these can be sent almost anywhere in the world. I mentioned earlier that we try to get very clean looking backgrounds. And there's a shot in Hungary that I adore. It's typically shot portrait, not landscape, which is a bit unusual. However, there's forest behind the cars as they come up. 1, 2, 3, is that turn 4? Just prior to turn 4 where they take the left-hander. In the background is this beautiful forest, and if you get in the right spot, you get nothing but that forest in the background. If you shoot portrait, that's long like that, not landscape. I use this big baby for that shot, and even then I have to crop in a little bit because I don't want too much of the runoff area at the bottom of this shot. In fact, I've got this shot on canvas in my garage in Perth, and it's a relatively easy shot to get if you're able to get to that position, which of course we are because we have the tabard and we're accredited. Unfortunately, there is no spectator vantage point there. Now, all those shots I've talked about today are daytime shots. But let's talk about an evening shot. This is at Abu Dhabi. As the cars leave the pit lane, they descend and then go underneath the track. Now I can stand down the bottom here and shoot back up the hill and catch those cars with lovely golden light behind them, if the conditions are right. Now it only happens for about 15 minutes, and it's normally, from memory, about 5:45, I think it is, depending on the time of year that we are there. But the thing is, if you do that during the race, look what you get in the background. You get that structure that holds the camera that zooms up and down pit lane, and it's an ugly shot. However, doing it during tyre testing, which is a couple of days after the race at the end of the year, look at this. There's no crap in the background. Brazil, pit wall. I love it. It's the first time I've ever shot there, 2021. What I love about it is the cars get really close as they take that left-hander at turn 1. So we get to see lots of lockups. I shoot with a wide-angle lens. The cars are big in the shot. Now that's a little bit unusual. That's because we're so close to the action. Now only 5 or 6 photographers are allowed on that pit wall during a race, and so I was lucky to get that particular position during Brazil last year. But the photos I got were superb. And it was a real buzz too, being that close to the action. Yes, you do sense that there's an element of danger, and at the start I stood not fully exposed, just my lens sticking out from behind the catch fence on the main straight. And I survived it. Shooting this sport is an absolute privilege, and it's a real thrill, but sometimes I do fear for my safety, and I mentioned earlier on the bottom of Eau Rouge is a little bit frightening. Some of the spots in Monaco, yes, I'm conscious that things can go wrong, and I remember actually shooting with my lens right up against the fence last year in Monaco. One of the marshals came down and said, look, you might just want to move away a little bit. We had a guy in a support race doing the same as you. He's now gone to hospital because a car's collided with that fence, thrown him a metre back. But they are the risks, and motorsport is dangerous, especially where we get to stand. If you've loved any of these pictures, remember you can get them on canvas by going to kimillman.com and going to the shop. You can buy any of my images digitally by heading to prostarpics.com. My F1 photo books, there's plenty of them to choose from, are available at kimillman.com. And for my best pictures live from the track and all during the week, head to Instagram and search @Kim Illman. Thank you, Mickey, for the reminder that we have to go out for a walk. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate. Doing it during testing, doing it during, geez, that's hard to say.